everybody. Hope y'all having a fun day. My name is Adam England from the University of Alabama Police Department. I've been over there for 7 years now. Before that, I worked across the river at Northport for 5 years. I'm currently assigned to the training division, so I handle all our department training when we get new officers, all our training every month. It's kind of my job. Also a member of the SRT team, Metro team with Tuscaloosa, SWAT team. So let me go ahead and point this out. I know you have a copy of the PowerPoint in your binders, but this is my email. The best way to get in touch with me is by email. So at the end, if we have time, I'm going to open up just for a few questions. But if for some reason that you didn't get to ask your question or you think of something that you'd like to ask me after I'm done talking, please don't hesitate to use my email and shoot me an email. If you'd rather talk in person, you can come by the PD or call the number there to the police department, 5454, and ask for me and they'll transfer you to me. So the stuff we're going to talk about, I got 30 minutes. I'm going to talk really fast, probably stumble over my words a few times. Just ignore that. So I'm not the best speaker. But the stuff we're talking about, guys, is not only it's serious in nature, and it's a lot of stuff that people don't think about. And the name of the presentation is Run, Hide, Fight. But this is if you find yourself in an active shooter or active threat situation. We're trying to get away of saying active shooter now because it's more of an active threat. They're not just people trying to shoot you. There's stabbings, all kinds of bad stuff going on. So think of this as somebody's trying to harm you and what your options are. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next few minutes. So just some objectives. I'm going to breeze through that. We're going to skip the video. And today, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you options so that you've thought about it beforehand. Because in that split second when this is going on, when somebody's trying to stab you, shoot you, harm you, if you haven't thought about a plan beforehand, you're already behind the curve. Thought about, hey, what's my options? What can I do? You got to have that mindset too that I'm going to survive, that we'll talk about in just a few minutes. But to give you those options, so when it comes that time, hey, if I can run and get away, I'm going to get away. If I can't, I've got to hide and barricade the doors and make sure that I'm safe. And then last, if they break through my barricade and they're in there, then I have to fight. I have to fight for my life. Y'all are going out to be teachers. You have to fight for your kids' life. You have to know if you can get all your kids out, because when we do this and we talk to teachers and day school workers, day camps, whatever you want to call it, it kind of changes it a little bit. It's not necessarily run, hide, fight, because a lot of times they can't get their kids. Their first responsibility is not them running away. Your first responsibility is to take care of them kids first and do everything you can to make sure that they're safe. And if you can't get all of them out and safe, then your best option may be to hide. So it may start out with hide for you depending on your classroom and in your students. But to give you those options to think about, what do I need to do? So when you go out there, and this stuff not only applies that we're talking about in the classroom, you can take what we talk about and when you're out at the movie theater, out to eat with your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever it is, the same concepts and principles hold true. That, hey, what's my options here? If somebody comes in here and starts shooting up the place, and it goes back to situational awareness too that we'll talk about in a minute. You just take a second when you sit down. Hey, look, there's a door there. There's another door over here. Always know at least one more door when you sit down somewhere. Know the door that you came in and one other door that you could get out if you needed to. The reason that is situational awareness, because if the threat is there at that door that you came in, that's the only way you hadn't took the time to think about it, and then that threat's there, you're going to freeze. You don't know where to run. So just take a second, scan your area, say, hey, there's a door there, there's a door there. Somebody comes in, I could get behind that. That'd probably stop a bullet. And just run that through your head. It takes about 30 seconds, and sit down and enjoy your movie, your dinner, whatever it may be. But just have a plan. If you're out at the mall, what is your options? If you're walking in the mall and somebody comes in there and starts shooting or starts trying to harm people, what are you going to do? And not that I tell you this to live your life in fear, because you shouldn't live your life in fear, but you should just think about it. Because if you don't think about it, you're setting yourself up for failure. It just takes that 30 seconds to be prepared to think about your options. This is the definition of a active shooter by the Homeland Security. Homeland Security is the one that does this PowerPoint. There's a lot of different definitions out there when it comes to active shooter. You can read it in your book. The FBI's got a little bit different one. But basically there's a difference in an active shooter and a murder. And they put that up there to talk about that. A lot of times when you hear on the TV, as soon as there's a shooting somewhere, hey, active shooter at such and such plant or such and such school, it's not necessarily always an active shooter. Take some time and look at it and say, hey, is that an active shooter or is that a murder? Because there's a difference. A murder, somebody goes in, they target somebody and they kill them. That's not an active shooter. An active shooter, and just about all the definitions that you find, Homeland Security, FBI, whoever it is, an active shooter is killing indiscriminately. They're just trying to get their numbers up, trying to cause much damage and fear as they can to the people that they're trying to inflict pain upon. So just be cautious of that. Know the difference. When you hear that it's an active shooter, really look at it, see if it's an active shooter or more of a murder. All right, a few of the myths we'll hit real quick. So prevention. Here at the university, and Charlie, Mr. Dorsey will be coming up next, and he'll talk on the prevention side of it, but we do everything we can on the prevention side. We have the threat assessment. We have officers assigned there to help him, that if somebody comes in and says, hey, this student, anybody that's associated with the university, they come to us and they say, hey, this student is not acting right, or this faculty member, staff member, or this family member of a teacher is not acting right, something's up with them. We'll open a case and start looking at it. Say, hey, are they on prescription medication? Do they have weapons? What can we do to stop anything bad from happening? And that's great. They do great work. But how many, if they stop 9 out of 10 and stop them before it happens, how many does it take for us to have a bad day? Just that one. Just that one that might slip through the cracks. So although prevention is good, it's not 100%. But we do everything we can. I'm going to skip down. Well, it'll not happen here. If you believe that in this day and age, that you'll never find yourself in an active threat, active shooter situation, you're setting yourself up for failure. Just like I talked about. You say, man, we're in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We're relatively safe here. It'll never happen here. You're setting yourself up to failure. Like I said, not to live your life in fear, but to have a plan and say, hey, if it happens, what am I going to do? So don't be walking around in that bubble thinking, man, I'm fine, I'm safe. But don't live your life in fear, but just be aware of your surroundings, your situation, and to use everything to your advantage. To know that if you find yourself in there, know what your options are. So police will respond in time to stop the killing. So police agencies now have went to where we are getting there as soon as we can. We know we have to go in on an active shooter. That changed after Columbine. And police officers, they hear gunshots, we're going to stop the killing. Having said that, if somebody walked in here right now, we have 88 officers now on campus with our police department. If somebody walked in here right now and started shooting, and I didn't have my gun up here, the police ain't going to be here right when it breaks off. Our best response time here on campus for our police department in an emergency situation is usually less than a minute. Less than a minute, because we have so many of us. You'll probably see us sitting up beside the buildings all the time watching YouTube videos. I've done it when I was on patrol. It's cool. So they're going to get there as fast as they can. But if you're there when it first breaks off, you can't count on the police. They're coming and they're going to do good work. But you've got to know that you've got to protect yourself and prepare yourself to do what you've got to do to survive, to help your children that's in your classroom survive. So they're coming, but they're not going to, it's going to take them a little bit of time to get there. And the last one, another one of them, that if you believe this, guys, that you cannot do nothing against an armed intruder, you're setting yourself up for failure again. You're going to have that victim mentality, okay? That's a choice that you make, to have that victim's mentality. Oh, if somebody comes in here with a gun or a knife, there's nothing I can do. I'm going to sit there and wait to be executed. I'm going to wait to die. I hope that if you have that mentality that you'll think about today and that'll change. If somebody comes in here, even if I didn't have my firearm and they've got a gun or a knife, hey, they might get me. They might. But I'm going down with a fight. I'm not going to sit there and wait to be killed. I'm going to do everything I can to my advantage, throwing stuff, causing as much chaos that we'll talk about here in a minute. I want to fight back for my life, for every one of y'all's lives, that we can go home to see our husband, our wife, our kids, whoever it may be that loves us. I want to go home at the end of the night to see them. Armed intruder comes and attacks me. They might get me, but I'm going to fight back. I'm going to do everything I can. And I hope you have that mentality. You go into that classroom to teach. Those students are going to be looking to you. You've got to fight for their lives so they get to go home and see their moms and dads and who loves them. So don't think that you're helpless. And we'll talk about some stuff here when we get to the fight part, some options and some stuff to think about. We're going to skip through that for time's sake. All right, so kind of getting the meat and potatoes of the presentation. What to do if you find yourself in an active shooter situation. Now, the name of this whole program is Run, Hide, Fight. But when we say run, first off, we kind of replace it with this slide with intelligent escape. When we get to the intelligent escape, that's what I was talking about, being aware of your surroundings. being able to make that an intelligent escape. Knowing, hey, there's exit doors in the back, there's exit doors on the side, there's exit doors in the front. This is a great building that if somebody come in that you have plenty of ways to get out of. But when you go into a restaurant, just take that time. When you go into your classroom, say, hey, could I jump out the window if I had to? Is there another back door that I could get out of the school? Just be aware of your surroundings and know where you can make the best escape. Because if you can get away from it and everybody you're responsible for, get them away, get out of that area. Be safe. If you can't, hide, barricade, close doors, turn off lights, lock the doors. And then last, that's what I was getting to, is fight back. Fight back for everything you're worth so that you can go home to see your loved ones. Now run, when we get to the run part, that intelligent escape. So we're in here and we hear gunshots coming from outside the auditorium here. And we decide to run. What do y'all think? What should we take with us? Nothing. That's right. None of that stuff in front of you is worth your life. You leave it. Don't go back for anything. The only thing we say is that if your cell phone is with you, to grab your cell phone. Okay? If it's not, if you had to go back to get it, leave it. You'll get it all back a week or so, month, whatever it is, but it's not worth your life. But if you got your cell phone there, stick it in a pocket or put it somewhere so when you run out, as police are coming in, that we can see your hands. We try to tell everybody not to have anything in their hands because, hey, you're running out. Hey, come on, keep moving. And we teach our officers a quick scan technique. If they see something in your hands, they may slow you down for a minute. They may hold you up, handcuff you, whatever, till they figure out, hey, that's just a phone, they're good, and get you out of there. But stick it in a pocket or something. So you're running, and you did grab your cell phone, because I know most of us keep our cell phones pretty close to us. You got your cell phone. When do we call the police? When you're safe, right. A lot of people will say immediately, as soon as it starts, I need to be calling the police. No, don't call the police till you are somewhere safe, till you get out of the area, behind something that'll stop a bullet. Then once you get there, you've probably just seen some bad stuff, been running in a stressful situation. Take a second, take a breath, and think about what you're going to tell dispatch. What's some of the stuff that we need to tell dispatch? Hey, they answer the phone, 911, what's your emergency? What's some stuff that we need to tell dispatch? Location, what's happening, and all that. I'll sum it up with this right here. Tell them only tell them what you know to be a fact. Don't say, well, so and so said that they thought they saw the shooter here. Tell them what you know to be a fact. If you're in here and we started hearing gunshots out there, and all you know is, hey, I was in Sellers auditorium, I heard gunshots, and I got out. That's all you need to say. Dispatch is probably going to say, okay, thank you, and hang up. Couple reasons. Because we don't want to tell them what we think or what we don't know to be fact, because that's just going to cause more confusion on our end. Another reason is, as soon as we can get you off the phone, somebody else may be calling with more important information. Your information is great, they'll let us know, but somebody may still be in the building that we need to get to. Tell them what you know to be a fact and then get off the line. Does that make sense? All right, so we talked about running, the phone, when to call. Let me tell you this, if you're on UA campus and you call 911, where's that phone call going? Is anybody from a cell phone? You're on campus and you call 911 from a cell phone. Where's that call going? What's that? Tuscaloosa Police Department. That's right. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're on this campus and call, because in an active shooter situation here on campus, UA's coming, Tuscaloosa County, Northport, Birmingham will probably be coming to help us. People from all around, all these small agencies. But we ask that when you're on campus that you program our number, the 348-5454. And it'll be on the slide again a little bit later. But 205-348-5454. Program that phone number into your phone under UAPD. So in a stressful situation, you can speed up the process. The reason I say Tuscaloosa will have to get the call, see it, they'll dispatch an officer. Their closest officer may be over on the west side of town, and they start dispatching. That's great. Well, you had this guy that's sitting there watching YouTube, checking his Facebook status, right next to the building that didn't know nothing was going on. So it just speeds up the process if you call the direct number. If you call 911 and that's all you know, that's fine. No worries. That we're all coming. But we just ask that you program that number, 205-348-5454, into your phone. Now, moving along for time's sake. Hide. So you can't get away. The shooter's too close or you're trapped and you have to hide. Some stuff to think about is locking doors, turning off lights. If you have something above your window, if y'all are in classrooms that you can pull down, we suggest that you put blinds or something so nobody can see in your window. Pull that down. Silence your cell phone. Do all that stuff because you don't want them to think, that anybody's in there. You want to be as quiet as you can. Be aware of your noise discipline. Now, on the hiding part of it, when do we open the door? Say you've been in there 10 minutes and all of a sudden it's boom, boom, boom on the door. Police department, open the door. And you don't have your cell phone with you. What do? What's that? You don't make a sound. All right? You stay in there till the police knock down the door because you don't want nobody to know that you're in there. We have materials. If it's got to the point where we're searching room by room, we'll either have a key by that point or we've got some tools that we're all itching to play with that we would love to see work on the door. All right? So don't make a sound. Just stay quiet. Now, finally we kick the door open or we get the key and we come in there and there's some pissed off police officer standing over you saying, "Why didn't you open the blankety blank door?" You can tell them that Adam Anglin told me not to open this door. And if they have a problem with it, they can come see me because I don't want you to open the door and losing your life because you thought it was the police. A lot of times we'll hear people would say, "Well, I'd have them show me their badge." Don't go by that. Somebody could shoot me right now and put this badge over their neck. You stay quiet. You don't make a sound. If it's us, we'll get in there. Other option is if you have your cell phone and you can do it quietly, calling that 911 or if you're on UA, the 348-5454 and saying, "Hey, there's somebody outside my doors. Is that a police?" They're saying they're the police. They'll either say, "Yes, that's the police. You got it confirmed. You can open the door," or "No, it's not." Well, that just helped us out if you're able to do that because what do you think we're fixing to do? We're fixing to send everybody to that room if it's not the police. So if you can do that quietly and you have your cell phone with you, that's an option. But if you don't think you can stay quiet enough and make too much noise by doing that, all means stay quiet and hide. All right, just some options here. That's how we'd like to barricade if we was hiding, right? Yeah. Another one, if you had time to do all that, you probably had time to get out, don't you think? Yeah, I don't know. If you had time to get your saw and hammer out, I don't know. All right, so this one, hit on it real quick. So this causes a lot of debate because they'll say, "Well, that's no good because the door's open outward, there's glass, they could come through." All that's done. I say it's decent because it bought you some time. Because one of two things, if they have to break the glass or they have to push through all that, that's bought you some time to know that, hey, they're in my area, that they're coming. It's time for me to get my fight on. As soon as they break through that, I'm going to jump on their back like a spider monkey, and I'm going to work. Right? So that's all that is, to buy you some time. Give them something to work through. Don't make it so they just open it up and there's a bunch of people, a bunch of victims sitting there waiting to be killed. Do something. Something's better than nothing. This is pretty good right here. The only problem I have with this, what do y'all think the only problem with this slide is?
Some man's stuck behind the furniture.
Exactly. They do a good job of barricading the door. But if you hide in your barricading, don't trap yourself. Because if that barricade starts to get defeated, you're stuck. You're stuck right there. Where would be the best place for these guys to be at? What do you think? Right here? Right next to the door? Yeah. Because as soon as they start trying to fiddle with that, if they've got a gun or a knife, that gun or knife probably is going to be the first thing through the door, and I can grab it and I can start my fight back from right there and not let them get in the room. So position yourself, if you're hiding, somewhere that's best for you. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Moving on. Get to go through this is just showing options. So get kind of to the fight back part. You look in your book and it's some stuff about barricading, some stuff thinking outside the box that you can use. What's some stuff, if it comes in, it comes down to us fighting back. What's some stuff that we can use to fight back? Chairs, shoes, desks. What can we do with a shoe? Throw it. Because what does everybody do when something's thrown at you? You duck. You reset that OODA loop. Okay? So you're doing that. And you teach your students, if they're old enough to understand that, hey, maybe somebody tried to harm us someday, if you can teach them to throw something at the door, and hey, while they're throwing that and that guy's up there, the bad guy's up there ducking and diving, hey, you better have a plan that you're going to fight back and you're going to end that threat. So use everything to your advantage. It don't matter, books, whatever it is. Throw, fire extinguishers make great weapons. Spray, you got a blunt force object, great weapons. All right, but you fight back for your life. You're committed to your actions. Just because you get a boo-boo don't mean you can stop. Most gunshot wounds, even if you get gunshot, most gunshot wounds are survivable. Have that mentality that, hey, it's time to fight back, and I'm going to fight to my last breath. You get shot, there's no calling a timeout. You finish the mission. You stop that threat. do whatever you have to do. So I hope that gives you some stuff to think about. We'll go through this real quick. Just control the attacker, control the gun. So when they're down on the ground, and I'll finish with this story. I was teaching this up at the, the Stalin Center, to the teachers up there. Man, great group of teachers, just great teachers, really dedicated to the hard work with them kids. I was doing the run, hide, fight, doing this presentation, and the whole presentation lasts about an hour and a half. And if you'd like to have it sometime, more than welcome to email me, and we'll make it happen. But I was doing the presentation up there, and it come to this part, and I was like, okay, y'all done good work. Because running for them is not an option. They can't get all their kids with special needs out and everything, so they would have to barricade and fight. I said, intruder came in the door, and you done good work. Y'all jumped on him, y'all beat the intruder down, and the gun's laying there. I said, what would y'all do with the gun? To get them thinking along the lines, because there's certain things we'd like to do. And one of the teachers on the front row raised her hand. I said, yes, ma'am. I said, what would you do with the gun? Y'all just beat this guy down, and he's good to go. She said, personally, I'd pick it up and I'd shoot that MFer right in the head. And I said, whoa, hold on. But that goes back to, she knows that she's got to protect her kids. There's a difference in murder and stopping the threat. But in that situation, it's all females up there. They got to protect their kids. She done what she had to do. And that's the mindset that you got to have when you get into the fighting part. That you're going to do what you have to do to protect yourself and whoever you're responsible for. So I'm pretty sure I'm up on time. Sorry I didn't have time for questions.
We have time for a few questions. You have about 5 minutes.
Okay, good deal. So if I've got any questions, guys, please ask. While you're thinking of questions, I'll hit on one more topic real quick. Follow the commands you're given when we're coming in. If we're telling you to get on the ground, get on the ground. Don't argue with us. Same way as getting a traffic ticket. On the side of the road is not the spot to argue about it, but that's a whole other class. Follow the commands you're given. This is something tough right here. Initial officers, once we get there, we're not there to treat the wounded at that time. And that's tough, especially if you're the one laying there wounded with a gunshot. Our first job is we got to stop the killing. Because if we stop as we get in to treat one person, how many more just got shot in the back? So we train our officers to stop the killing. Once we stop the killing, then we can come back and stop the dying. We'll come back and start treating wounded, treating you, getting you out to emergency medical care. But just understand that. That'll be tough for us to get. Yes, ma'am.
What would you say for anyone who has walking aids or any sort of other mobility assistance for having their hands clear when they're trying to get out of the building?
So that's kind of tough. I think it'll be situational. I can't give you a 100% answer. I think if you have a walking aid or something, that's an excellent weapon that you have right there. Get out the best that you can, and if not, start using it as a weapon if you have to fight for your life. You have to be more aware if you have one of those, if you have that issue of being aware of where you could get out and what would be the best route for you, the quickest way, the best route for you. Does that kind of answer your question?
I was more concerned about making sure that the police know that the cane is not a threat.
That the cane's not a threat? As long as you, I think as long as if you have that you don't have it up pointing and trying to talk with it, just keep it on the ground and use it for what it's designed for, I don't think you would run into that issue. Yes, ma'am.
I've heard before that if you find a discarded weapon or weapon anywhere, that you shouldn't pick it up and leave a building because you could be viewed as a shooter, or...
Okay, so I told that story. So what do we do with the gun? Kind of like that. If the gun's laying there, if you find a gun, right? Leave it alone. If you don't know how to handle the weapon, kick it under a trash can and turn it upside down and have somebody sit on that trash can if the threat's already been eliminated. If it's not, leave it alone and get out of there. I'm not expecting anybody to pick up a gun and come running up to me, hey, here's the gun. That could turn out bad. Another thing is, a lot of people say, well, I would hold the gun and I'd hold the shooter at gunpoint till the police got there. Okay, let's talk about that a second. You're holding the shooter at gunpoint. I round the corner, all I know as a police officer is that they're shooting in the building, and then I round the corner and you've got a gun pointed at somebody. What's probably fixing to happen? You're probably going to die. Okay? So don't be holding the weapon in your hand. Secure it somewhere if the threat's neutralized. Put it under a trash can. Put it in a desk and have somebody stand up there. That way that the shooter's down, they have to fight through whoever's holding them down and have to fight through that last person to get back to the gun. If you know how to clear the weapon and you're familiar with weapons, how you can clear it. Drop the magazine, rack the slide, make it safe, but just don't be holding it as police are coming. Separate it from the from the shooter. Does that answer the question? Good deal. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any resources on campus for like self-defense classes or anything of that nature?
Okay, so through the university, we offer a sharps class that you can get credit through the kinesiology department. Also now we're offering it, start back up in September. You can contact the police department and ask about it. It's a women's self-defense class. It's only open to women. It's called Equalizer, and it usually meets on Wednesday nights for, I think it's 6 weeks, for about 3 hours on Wednesday nights. That's a self-defense class. That's free of charge, and just contact the police department for enrollment.
In the event that we encounter a student that might have a permit for a gun and might have that weapon on them, what is the protocol for assessing and dealing with that situation?
So somebody with a permit, right? That was pretty much it in your own campus? Yeah. So we have a no guns policy on campus, right? So what we suggest is that you can come in and check it in at the police department, check it back out at any time. You lock it up, we put it in our safe. If you have your gun with you, and I'm putting that out there, UA is you can get in trouble through the university for having a gun on campus. If you have a gun on you and you find yourself in an active threat situation for whatever reason, be very careful. Because, yeah, you may be trying to do good work, but the information that's coming into the police department is active shooter, and we get there and see somebody shooting, even though you're trying to do good work, you might end up being on the wrong end of it. So, go ahead.
So would you recommend if we witness like someone with a weapon, or do we call and they're not actively using it, right? Maybe they have a permit or whatever.
Yes, if they
Do we
are
call
on
you?
university
Do we confront
campus.
the person?
Yes, if they are on university campus and you see a weapon and you don't see a badge somewhere with it, a lot of us are not in uniform around our necks or right here with a gun, call the police department, because that's an issue that we need to address. Does that answer your question, sir? Okay. Anything else, guys? Yes, ma'am.
So you mentioned run, fight, or hide. So if our priority is getting out the students, and what if there's an active shooter or threat, and you hear shots or some of that in the building, and you want your children to run, but how do you know, what if you don't know how many shooters there are? If the area they're running to outside the building, is that safe? Do you have any advice for that situation?
That's a good question. And I can't give you nothing concrete. I know that if I hear shots inside the building, I'm going to take my chances on trying to get out. And in saying that too, I know that there could be a second shooter outside. There's been instances where people's pulled the fire alarm. 11 and 12-year-old in Arkansas in the 90s. One of them pulled the fire alarm. The other one, as everybody's leaving, was shooting people as they went outside. So I hate to give you a certainty, but if I can get away and get outside the building, my chances of surviving are better. Even though, because it's more wide open, I'm not confined, I'm not restricted, my options are more open once I get outside. So I would still try to take the best route away from the gunman to get outside the building. But you kind of got to weigh the options there too. Does that answer your question somewhat? Good deal.
And unfortunately, we're out of time, and I want to say thank you again, Officer Anglin, and you have his email address, and he welcomes any questions that you may have. Thank
Yes,
you
ma'am.
very much. Oh.
Thank y'all, and good luck to y'all.